Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Awards Watch Oscar podcast. This is podcast number 39. It's Monday, May 23rd, and this is going to be the post-Cannes wrap-up. The Cannes Film Festival just ended yesterday with awards galore, and I think a lot of people thought it was a little bit messy, a little bit head-scratching, but you know what? That kind of happens at the Cannes Film Festival every year. So joining me today is once again one of my favorite Gold Rush Gang members and favorite podcast partners now. And it's Júlia Albuquerque. Hello, Júlia.
Hi, Eric. How you doing? And let's be real. The only reason you love me as a podcast guest is because I always show up.
Okay, there's two reasons. Yes, you always show up because other people just seem way too busy to do this. But, you know, what do I know? But the other reason is, actually, there's two more reasons.
Oh.
The vanity reason is because people love you and they love your voice and they love what you have to say. So, you know, it makes people want to listen more. People get really tired of my voice over and over again, as I do. But yes, no, the third reason is that you're just a really damn smart person and I love having you on.
Oh, thank you.
So, enough about that and you and, you know.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's just dive right into the Cannes winners yesterday, and
Okay.
I'll just do a really quick rundown of the 7 big winners.
Okay, just before you do,
Yeah.
can I have one quote.
Okay.
I think we should have to preface this.
Okay.
Okay? And hang on, I'll find it. Just give me a moment.
I'm excited already.
No, I just need to point this out because when asked about the future, the jury said, and this was Desplechin, I think.
Okay.
And on the opening conference, he said he was looking for films like Mad Max Fury Road and Son of Saul, and films that would represent the future of cinema. And that's all I have to say before you present the winners.
That is a really fantastic pull quote, and I love that you did that because the names of the movies I'm going to read off here do not represent any of what you just listed at all. All right, so the Palme winner this year was I, Daniel Blake by Ken Loach. This was his second Palme win. He won in 2006 for The Wind That Shakes the Barley. He's been in contention here 12 other times. And
I think it's more than that. Isn't it 20?
No, not for the
Palme.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's won 13 different awards from, all different areas of the festival. The grand prize went to It's Only the End of the World
Oh, boy.
by Xavier Dolan, and we'll talk about
Next time I don't get my way, I'll just throw a tantrum and say I'm retiring.
I think that's a really smart
Sure, that's
idea.
gonna work.
Especially when you're in your 20s. It's just a really great,
Oh, yeah.
great tactic. We'll talk about that award in a little while. The Prix de Jury went to Andrea Arnold's American Honey.
Again?
Uh-huh. This is her third jury prize. Third. Which some people are like, that's wonderful. That's great that she got 3 jury awards. And then there's other people that are like, why are they sticking her with third prize? Like 3 times.
Again.
Yeah, it's
and again.
crazy.
And again.
In director, there was a tie, and I'm gonna garble his name, and I'm gonna feel like an asshole. Christine Mongu. Is that it? Oh my
It's
god.
better than I could have done. So
I feel
probably.
terrible, and somebody's gonna be like, "No, Eric, it's like this." And that was for Graduation, and then Olivier Assayas for Personal Shopper. So a tie there. For actor, Shahab Hosseini for The Salesman. For actress, which I think was probably the biggest surprise of the evening, Jacqueline Jose for Ma Rosa. And for screenplay, The Salesman again, by Asghar Farhadi. And it should also be noted that 2 other awards given out for short film went to Time Code, and the Camera d'Or, which is given to a first-time director, went to Huda Benamina for Defines, and she...
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. She must have thought she was winning the Palm or something, because
Can't she win the Palm just once? Because I need that speech.
Seriously.
I mean, in the future.
It was like a 15-minute speech. It just never ended.
No. It was a 15 minutes performance.
Yeah. Because when you thought it was done, there was more.
And then she started screaming or doing something like or whatever was that.
She did.
It was glorious.
It was very tribal. It was very primal, and it was amazing.
And it was way better than anything that happened after that.
It was. It was really like having your dessert and then having to eat your vegetables after it.
Yes, it was.
It was unfortunate. So, all right. Well, let's talk about the winners, because there was a lot of who's gonna win conversation on the boards and on Twitter and on everywhere. We had more than half a dozen people at the festival, and it didn't seem like this was the way that it was gonna go. I think to hark back to the quote that you pulled out from, wait, did you say it was from?
I'm pretty sure it was Desplechin.
Desplechin, okay.
Yeah, I think so.
There are no Mad Max type of films here. I mean, if they really wanted to do that, then, the Neon Demon maybe would have been something that they could have gone for. But they didn't pick virtually any of the best reviewed films. They actually went for at least one of the worst reviewed films. And I think this is where we have a situation again, and this happens with mainstream films and box office, where critics' reactions to films don't necessarily jibe with awards bodies. And, this was definitely a case. Xavier Dolan's It's Only the End of the World was met with boos and laughter by a lot of the press. Its win was in the press room as well. So why do we think that l'enfant terrible, Xavier Dolan, was able to win his highest prize so far with his worst reviewed film? Because Mommy was an extremely well-reviewed film.
Yes, absolutely.
And tied with Godard. And I think, by all accounts, felt very deserving. Do you think he's being primed for a Palm very soon?
Yes, in part, yes. But I do think a great part of him being awarded something, not necessarily the Grand Prix, but something, was because Laszlo's Nemes was there, and he said it explicitly. Oh, Xavier Dolan gave me a prize last year. Mm-hmm. And as much as he says that this had nothing to do with him championing Dolan, this year, it obviously does. We are all humans. I mean, we don't exist in a bubble.
Yeah.
Outside of that, he is someone who has been pretty much made by Cannes. I think all his movies played there. He has won several awards there. And he's on his way to a Palm. So I do think that the festival, their organizers, and in a way, they root for him, even if his movie is not as well received by critics. And there is a certain sort of prejudgment by critics with respect to Dolan. I mean, regardless of the movie itself, because we can't really talk about it since none of us have seen it. I mean, on the reviews itself, there was this sense that most of the critics wanted him to fail. And even if we look at something like, there's this poll, this aggregate poll, the poll of polls. And I really like the Apichat poll.
I do
But
too.
I like the poll of polls because it has a huge amount of reviews and from people from very different people. And they also show something that's called the standard deviation. So it's essentially, for those who are not really into numbers, it's essentially how spread out the notes are, the grades are. So if you have a high standard deviation, it means that your film is somehow controversial. So some people really like it, some people don't really like it, and sometimes that brings down the average.
Sure, it's something that's like very divisive.
Yes, yes. And if you look at It's Only the End of the World's grades, yes, they are low grades, but it's still a very divisive movie. It has a standard deviation of 2.2 or something. So if you look at their average, not getting very technical here, but say something like most people grade it between 2 and 6. 70% if we assume a bell curve, but that's not really important. Essentially, the thing is, I don't know how I personally will feel about it.
Yeah.
So I can't really judge whether it's such an absurd thing for him specifically to be awarded second prize.
Yeah.
I think it might be too much considering the reviews, even the positive reviews I've read. He might have had enough with a jury prize or a screenplay prize or something smaller. But I don't think it's that absurd. Or it might not be that absurd once we finally get to see that movie. I think what really baffles me about the results is not as much as the movies that got in, but the movies that didn't.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I want to get to that in a little bit. So, but yeah, that's a huge part of this because there were so many expectations of better reviewed, higher profile films. I think you're right though. In that there was a sense that critics really wanted Dolan to fail. I think there might have been some weird, animus about the fact that he is so young and has had so much critical success and success at this festival that they were just kind of waiting for any chink in the armor to take him down. It doesn't help that he has a persona of arrogance as well.
And the way he reacted to the critics didn't help at all.
No, but this was also a year of some really nearly violent reactions to some of these movies. Sean Penn had the same thing. The Last Face.
Oh yeah.
The Last Face was the worst reviewed film in competition by a huge margin. And then, for each of Penn and Dolan, they had, their one or two defenders come out to try and help them out. Dolan had Ira Sachs.
Yes.
Tweeting like, "Oh, but he did this. Come on!" And I don't remember who Penn had, but I think
Someone?
It was somebody.
No, Kevin Smith, I want to say. It was someone random like that.
Oh my god. But it's funny because they both, a lot of the criticism against each of their films was a tremendous amount of navel gazing type of filmmaking. And I mean, thankfully, The Last Face did not win anything. But yeah, it was a year of some pretty robust commentary from critics, and I'm wondering if that itself is a response to maybe them wanting to have more impact on these decisions, because it's clearly evident that they're not. And this jury was very vocal in their post-winners
Well, some of them.
press conference. Well, yes. Yeah.
Kristen Dunst was clearly not that.
Yeah.
She was not happy with what happened. I mean, I'm pretty sure she was overpowered in that jury because she had nothing to say on that press conference.
No, and that, can sometimes say quite a bit. Obviously,
Yes.
Donald Sutherland had
A lot
to say. I thought he was pretty fantastic in the conference and very, passionate about it.
Yeah.
But Go ahead.
No, I agree. I mean, he actually convinced me. I've been through the 5 stages of grief this week regarding Sonia Braga. So he finally convinced me, sight unseen, having not seen a single performance at this Cannes Festival, he convinced me that at least there was passion for her performance.
Yes, and what we're talking about is Jacqueline Jose for Marosa.
Yes.
One of the questions from a journalist was that from a critic's point of view, they perceived Jose's performance as a supporting one, so why did she win this award? And Sutherland very vehemently and quickly came to the defense of the choice that they don't believe that her performance was supporting. But it's kind of a stupid question anyway, because the performance categories at the Cannes Film Festival aren't broken into lead or supporting. So if somebody has enough impact in a small role, then they can still win. So it was a wasted question, really, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And Donald Sutherland himself said she won essentially for a single scene at the end of the movie.
Yep.
That baffled him and impressed him so much he just had to champion her performance. And I value that.
I do
I mean,
too.
it's not because it's not amongst one of the most well-reviewed films that there can't be a very well-received performance. So I'm fine with. I'm surprised at myself, but I'm actually fine with the Best Actress, not having seen her. But I'm fine with his argument for it.
Yeah.
Not so much about the rest of things.
Yes, yeah, very much so. And also, I'm looking at the distribution watch of what has U.S. distribution.
Yes.
And currently, I mean, this was more pickups, I think, and more set distribution for the United States than I think I've ever seen at this point. Because right now, the only things that I can find are Sierra Nevada, Aquarius,
Yeah.
and then 2 winners from the festival, the Marosa and Dolan's It's Only the End of the World. And he always has a tremendous amount of problems with U.S. distribution. I don't know why, but he just does. I mean, sometimes his movies don't get here for 2 years or more, or ever. It's kind of messy. But everything else has distribution here from really good small like A24 and Sundance Selects and stuff. But let's talk actually a little bit about actress, since we're on it, and you mentioned Sonia Braga.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because this was, as I mentioned, probably the biggest surprise win. Whenever we try and peg winners here, it's very difficult to do, because the voting process for these awards is kind of complicated. There are compromises everywhere. You can only vote a single film to get more than one prize in lower categories, and there's all these just complications to it, both of which Sutherland and jury president George Miller talked about at length as a part of their defense of their decisions.
As they avoided answering the questions, let's be real.
They did. That was how they avoided, especially the women-based oriented questions, which I thought was just terrible. But the 2 performances, and there were more than 2, but the 2 biggest performances that seemed to come into the awards with the most chance of winning the actress prize were Isabelle Huppert for Elle, which would have given her an unprecedented 3rd win here, and Sonia Braga, which would have really been seen as a pretty huge comeback.
Yeah.
For her, and I know you are saddened and grieved by her loss here.
I mean, it's complicated because it's not as if I'm a huge fan of hers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's gonna make me sound young, but she was before my time.
Yeah.
even when I watched Brazilian soap operas, her height here was with a soap opera called Gabriela,
Okay.
and that was it made her a sex symbol, and everyone knew her, and it was huge in Brazil, and it was like maybe 70s or 80s or something like that. And then with Kiss of the Spider Woman, which was a movie I had never seen before this Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I know. So it's really not as if I love her and I really want her to succeed, except for the fact that she's Brazilian and I really want her to succeed.
Sure.
So I mean, yeah, and the reveals and everything coming out of the fest made me believe it was possible.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was kind of disappointing, but yeah, it is what it is.
It is. It
It
is.
is. I'm actually more surprised that Rupert lost it
Yeah.
because I figured that if she were to lose, it would be to a hype performance such as Rupert's, or maybe even Kristen Stewart, if
Yeah.
they really wanted to.
And this is the perfect time to kind of just rattle off the other names that really felt like they were much more in contention than Jacqueline Jose,
Yeah.
which no one was on nobody's radar for this.
Essentially.
Yeah, and Kristen Stewart, personal shopper, would have been, but then obviously they would not have been able to give the director prize to
Yes.
Assayas. And also anything from the film that was completely snubbed and the highest reviewed film of the festival, and that was Tony Erdmann.
Yes.
So I don't want to mispronounce her name either. Sandra Huller would have been in contention. I don't know. Oh well, I mean,
I
I
mean,
guess Ruth Negga in Loving. We can talk more extensively
maybe
about.
Sasha Lane in American Honey.
Yes, yeah, and her showing up on the red carpet made people
Yes.
very excited, and then they saw Andrea Arnold, and that kind of took over. That she would be, and this is always one of the most fun things about getting last minute predictions in, and that's who gets called back to the festival or who has stayed or who has left town already, and we kind of jump on that and just seize on it like, oh, okay, they're here at the Palais, so they're winning something, and we know from history that you can always get Naomi Kawase or Marianne Cotillard.
Poor Naomi.
Yes, so it's that can always happen. Yeah, I mean, Marianne Cotillard had 2 films in contention, and again went home empty-handed from this festival.
Hey, but at least this time her movie got something. So, we're halfway there. It only took Xavier Dolan to break her curse.
Exactly. But I mean, that might have been an example of, they could have given Cotillard and the actress prize instead of
Oh, yeah.
Dolan the Grand Prix. So we will never know. Just like with any of these awards bodies, we will never know the complete inner workings of this, but it's also a very small group.
Yeah.
So when they do have something like their press conference, I mean, can you imagine if the Academy had to do a press conference
Oh,
to
that
defend
would
their
be so
decisions
great.
right afterwards? That would be amazing. So you get a very, very good idea of how these decisions were made, who pushed them, and who just kind of was not able to get their favorites in there. And we definitely saw that yesterday.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and it's an interesting thing because we can't really do that with the Academy, but since the jury is so small, we always get insight on who liked what. So we know, for instance, that George Miller himself didn't like Tony Erdmann,
Yep.
and that Paul Verhoeven didn't like Elle. So that might be a clue as to why none of their actresses got Best Actors.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It was great, at least when the one journalist after the big defenses from Miller and Sutherland about how complicated it is to make the compromises for wins, and if something wins here, it can't win there. Came back and said, well, you gave two things to the salesman of 7 awards, so why would you do that when you have the opportunity, to have awarded something else? And that was good. That was the right kind of question to ask without being having it sound very snide and vindictive, like the Deadline guy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought his question was not made to even be answered at all. It was just to jab. It was
bait. It was pure bait, and it would clearly not go anywhere.
No, it was like a bad Twitter reply or comment section reply, and it was pretty juvenile. But let's talk a little bit about the things that didn't get anything, because we did start on Tony Erdmann, and it was, by and large, I'm not sure, and you might be able to tell me if in the poll of polls it was the highest rated, but I know it was really high up there.
Yes, it was.
I thought it was. It was the highest.
It was the highest rated, and with a very reasonable standard deviation.
Mm-hmm. And it is a comedy, and that is continually, just like at the Oscars and here and a lot of places that give out awards, a very difficult hurdle to jump over and win something, even if it's a very subversive comedy. But the film did get picked up by Sony Pictures Classics, so it should have a very good run at the end of the year. I don't foresee it being, an Oscar contender, really, of any possibility.
Yeah, I've seen people considering whether they would release it this year or 2017.
Ah, okay, true.
So I don't know.
Well, it depends.
Especially now that they can't really claim it won anything on Cannes.
True.
Which I'm sure they were not counting on.
True, and they've had a really rough couple of years.
Indeed, they did.
Things like Miles Ahead and the Hank Williams biopic, which just was a disaster.
They need to win.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. And then there was Loving, which I think, reasonably looking at the list of everything from this festival, it's the film that has the most chance to be Oscar nominated and to carry itself throughout the year, even though its reviews were not really big and outstanding. It should still have no problem once it gets to Telluride and onward. So
it feels like that kind of movie that plays better stateside.
Yeah. Do you think it was just possibly too subtle? I know a lot of the reviews of it were a little bit muted because they felt the film itself was muted.
Yeah, I think so.
And I
mean, I think it might have up to the point where Loving screened, we were having an amazing festival.
Yeah.
So I think it suffered being compared to what opened around it.
Yeah. I think some critics felt like because of the subject matter, which is the Loving versus Virginia case for interracial marriage in the United States, that they were expecting more, I guess, plate smashing type of scenery chewing actressing and histrionics and high drama, and that was not the case. They don't even show the trial element of it,
which is actually something we've known for a long time.
Yeah,
because
I'm totally fine with that.
Well, yeah, so am I.
But
it speaks to it being very subtle. So
yes, yeah, and I think that might have led to its lack of attention here. But just by not really doing like I shouldn't really say that. I shouldn't say that the reason it didn't get a prize is because it doesn't push the medium forward. Because Daniel Blake won the Palm, and that didn't at all.
No, but you see, Daniel Blake was about suffering and about unemployment and about economical crisis, and these are very fun and different subjects, so they had to award it.
And it's Ken Loach. So there you
And
go.
it's Ken Loach, which is a very innovative filmmaker, a new guy. I had never seen anything from him.
Yeah, I can't believe he didn't win the Camera d'Or because.
Oh, yeah. I mean, such a bright new star.
Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, The Handmaiden seemed like something that was really aggressively cool and interesting and subversive, and this jury just did not want to touch it. It seemed like most critics really liked it. They were pretty excited by it, but then, kind of nothing. And Park Chan-wook is not, a stranger to awards in this festival, so I don't know. That was a little bit of a surprise that it wasn't able to get in there somewhere.
Yeah, but I think it might have been a bit too controversial without being good enough to overcome the controversy.
Ah, okay. Well,
And I
right.
do mean, I don't want to say that, because of the subject matter. It's not what I mean by it being controversial. It's just there is this whole story about the author of the book not really wanting it to be known as an adaptation. It should be like inspired by The Handmaid, by the Fingersmith. I think it's the name of
Got
the
it. Okay.
original. So I don't know. It might have nothing to do with it. But personally, I felt as if the reviews, while positive, were a bit, well, it's good, whatever. I didn't really see passion behind it.
Okay. I thought there might have been, but yes.
And
maybe
compare
not.
it with, for instance, take the Poll of Polls. It's number 13, right
Okay.
above Personal Shopper. And there was a lot more talk about Personal Shopper than there was about The Handmaid.
True.
So, it was that thing that came and went, and people didn't really talk about it.
Yeah.
So I think it didn't make as much an impression on the jury as we would have liked.
All right. Well, that's the perfect counter argument to my thought on it. So that's great. That makes a lot of sense. We also didn't see Jim Jarmusch's Patterson make an impact, and early predictions, even like day before, had Adam Driver. A lot of people had Adam Driver
Yes.
as a possible actor winner there, and that did not pan out.
Yeah, I think either there was a lot of passion for the actor on The Salesman,
Yeah.
or they really hated Adam Driver.
I have to think that they did because, like, we mentioned before, The Salesman won 2 things, including actor. So, what that could have been an open category,
Yeah.
but it wasn't.
And there wasn't a lot of other options since they were giving the palm to Daniel Blake.
Yes, exactly. And that sort of seemed like that was like where they started, and then they went down.
Well, yeah, but I think it makes sense that they do it because since whoever wins the palm can't win anything else.
Yeah. We also have 2 major Cannes players that went home empty-handed, and that was Pedro Almodovar for Julieta and the Dardenne brothers for The Unknown Girl. And I wonder if they sort of just ended up being kind of placeholders here, because when you look at this list, it is filled with very major in-competition Cannes players.
Yeah, but I think sometimes when you have these huge names in competition, you can't really help but compare them to the rest of their work. And you take the Dardenne, for example. It was fine, but it wasn't what you would expect from a Darden, going from the reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think it makes sense for them to be ignored here. I mean, I'm happy that they were because it's better than give it just because they are the Darden brothers.
Yes.
On Almodovar, however, it was really well reviewed. I mean, it wasn't his best reviewed movie, I don't think, but it was overall really well accepted, wasn't it?
I think so. Not hugely so, but yeah.
Yeah,
But see, that's why I sort of look at the Dardennes like the Ken Loach, where it's like
yeah,
here are directors very, very comfortably staying in their lane of
that is
filmmaking.
true.
So why one over the other? It's just what I'm kind of wondering. But and it's not even a question that we can really answer.
Oh, yeah, not at all.
But it is
Maybe not even George Miller can.
maybe not even George Miller. Well, it's not a question about a woman, so he might be able to answer it.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah, but um, yeah, I keep looking over this list and try and see what we can look and pull from to be Oscar contenders, and I can't see anything other than Loving realistically.
I agree.
It has the best studio behind it.
True.
It's gonna
It's
end
the
up.
number one for
Yeah,
that studio.
it's gonna end. It's their number one for the year. It's gonna end up at Telluride and probably many other festivals. But I think we probably have a handful of films and performances that we might see still carry throughout the year and into the season for smaller awards and
Well, I'm counting on
independence.
Lefka. Save Sonia Braga.
Well, I'm counting on Isabelle Huppert somewhere.
Oh, come on.
I am.
Give Sonia Braga a chance. Isabelle Huppert is already a legend.
That's
She doesn't need the
that's true.
minor awards such as the Oscars.
I do think that something like Personal Shopper and Patterson and American Honey, we will see at the end of the year, like with Independent Spirits or
Maybe.
something like that. I think it's absolutely possible. Certainly by the satellite nominations, I'm sure. Which
Well, I mean, which version of their nominations you mean?
I shouldn't shade the satellites too much now, and I won't say why quite yet. I'll hold on to that for a little bit, maybe for the next podcast. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh.
Um,
Scenes of the next episode.
exactly, it's a preview. Well, getting away from the in competition films, just a little bit. I think there is a lot of great films that could be seen by a decent audience and get some awards contention. Most specifically, The Red Turtle,
I agree.
which won a special jury prize from the UCR, from the Assistant Regard. And then, of course, Tony Erdmann did actually win a prize. So I think those are films that we'll be able to see, and maybe Captain Fantastic too.
Oh, yeah.
With Viggo Mortensen from Matt Ross. I was pretty happy that Matt Ross won the director prize there.
Mm-hmm.
I like him. I'm a big fan of his as an actor. I met him in Berkeley once when I was living there, and he was super, super nice. He was so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was a great guy. So I'm glad for him there. But yeah, I'm kind of looking down at the list, going, "Yikes! Is there anything else that we might be able to see?" And I don't really see much right now. But it's early. We're not even halfway through the year yet, so we could see more pickups and things this year. And as you mentioned, things could be pushed to 2017 if they are
Yeah.
deemed more more worthy than for either box office or awards.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm not sure what else we can really cover. We're definitely keeping this as a Cannes specific podcast and not a general prediction one. Is there anything else? Should we? I don't want to be too much more shady, especially after my Twitter performance last night or yesterday. So
I think what we might cover is, first of all, especially with Xavier Dolan and Sonia Braga, whether we think they might have a very, 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 very minor chance of getting into Best Actress this year. We might cover foreign films, the possibility of any of the films that open in Cannes showing up in foreign film.
That's actually a really good point, and we should do that.
And finally, I mean, for as much shade as we've done here, I think it's a valid discussion to have, since none of us has seen any of these movies. How valid is it for us to criticize their decisions? Because this is a discussion that's been going on in the forums, and I think it's an interesting thing to consider.
It is. Let's start there. Let's start there then. And my side of that, or my opinion of that, is that we have a very small amount of things to go off of, and nothing is necessarily really empirical because this is subjective opinions. And so we really have three pieces of information. We have the critics' reviews of a film. We have the jury's decision to award a film or not award a film. And then we have the jury's press conference after, talking about why they awarded something, why they didn't, and defending their choices. And I think trying to combine those three to create a narrative in which to talk about the validity of their decisions, I think is valid in and of itself. It's not. It also removes our personal bias from it because we have not seen a film, so our impression of it is not being filtered into that decision. So, I mean, I've been to the Cannes Film Festival before, and I have always had my own very personal reactions to a film, if something wins or something doesn't. Ironically enough, the two times that I've been, my favorite film of the festival won the Palm both times. So, there's that. But this year, having not gone and just going off of, polls, reactions, and things like that, I feel like I don't want to say like I have the right to do it. I feel like my thoughts on it
are valid.
Maybe not valid, but they are not colored by my opinion.
That is true.
I'm only looking at evidence.
And I mean, I think there's a distinction to make on saying that you agree or you disagree with the jury, and as compared to whether or not you think what they did represent the best of the festival. And I mean that I want the jury to be a snapshot of what the festival was. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to agree with whoever they pick for the Palme d'Or. I don't have to think that director X deserved this prize instead of that prize, or actress Y shouldn't win a prize or something like that. But I want to look 10, 20 years from now and look back at the winners and say, going by what happened at the festival and going by the reception at that time, these movies represent what that festival was.
Yes.
And sure, sometimes we may disagree with the Palme, but other awards compensate that. So, for instance, a lot of people didn't like Dupont last year, but they liked other awards. They liked Who getting the Best Director prize and things like that. And this year, I felt as if what we got, these 7 names, did not represent what should have happened. because it doesn't represent anything. None of the 5 best reviewed movies got a prize. So if you are a young cinephile in 2040, and you go to whatever version of Wikipedia we have at that time, and you look back and say, oh, I wonder what happened in 2016. And you look and you say, oh, I Daniel Blake, I'll go look for that. Oh, it's only the end of the world. Well, sounds like fun. I'll check this out. And you might miss, not even Aquarius, you might miss Elle, you might miss Tony Erdmann. You might miss things that would have been a lot more significant going by the reaction today than what ended up winning. And that's what I have a problem with.
I totally agree. The separation between the critics and the jury this year was so huge that I wish the press conference and the questions had been longer and more elaborate, because I always want to get a feel of who this jury is and where they come from.
Well, I look
with their
forward
decisions.
I look forward to Kirsten Dunst writing a tell-all in 20 years or so,
At
and
least,
telling us all that happened.
yeah, or
Because they looked miserable.
Yes, I think she'll probably have plenty to say in like a Vanity Fair interview in like a year or two.
Oh, maybe a secret interview, and then we'll have to figure out it was her.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't be too hard. Okay, yeah. See, that's. I mean, I agree with you. Looking at the highest rated films getting nothing, and then Middle Ground kind of does. Just kind of makes you wonder. This jury claimed to spend more time together and convened every single day, which is very unusual. That's not usually how it happens. But I don't know. It's a little troubling still.
Yeah, it shouldn't happen again.
Yeah.
We saw how that turned out.
All right, let's go to your other point of talking about Hooper and Braga, and what we think their actual Oscar chances are. So currently, Braga's film Aquarius does not have distribution, so that kind of already puts it at a little bit of a disadvantage. Isabelle Huppert has Sony Pictures Classics behind Elle, but it might be subject matter and material that's a little too aggressive for the Academy.
I agree on both points.
Yeah, she does have another film coming out, Things to Come, but it's got a very good Metacritic score. I need to double check and see if it has It does not have a U.S. release date for this year, which means I don't think it has a
Distributor.
U.S. distributor either. It does not. So that might make things kind of tough for her, I think. As well as the fact that Paul Verhoeven, even if this is being seen as a more serious film, he just might not garner the respect within the Academy to get her there either. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't feel great on it, I guess, is really what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think neither of those actresses are happening.
No.
Braga would have a decent shot if she had won Best Actress, or if Aquarius had won a better prize, so that it might have a good distributor.
Yeah.
Because I do think she has the connections in Hollywood, and I do think she has a role that would work for a nomination. And she has the comeback story, and that could work for her.
Yeah.
But without Ken, we never know. They might be acquired, but I don't see them uh, getting a U.S. distribution. And if they do, I don't think it will be a good one. So I don't think she's happening.
No,
And
I don't
with
either.
Isabelle Huppert, I don't think she's either, especially because of the role. I don't see that kind of role translating well with the Academy. And there are a lot of performances this year, so I don't see her dominating the Critics Awards so that she might get a push from them.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of talk, including maybe myself, that was trying to, make a correlation, parallel, comparison, whatever, to Charlotte Rampling's nomination this year for, someone that has been respected and working in the industry for decades and decades, but never been Oscar nominated before. And Huppert is also a part of that group.
Yeah.
And, she was in Amour, which was a Cannes winning film, and that's something.
And just like Rampling, she was one of the favorites to win the silver, no, the bear. It's the
Yes.
silver bear for extras.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the Berlin Film Festival
Yep.
with Things to Come,
Yep.
but she lost.
She did.
So
But the
yeah,
director
shady
won.
Mary Streep.
I mean, the director won, so.
Yeah, but
That was
it's
that.
it's not the same narrative.
It's
I mean,
not.
You can't translate a directing award to
No.
an acting.
No, you really can't. Yeah, I don't feel much. I don't feel much for either of them with actual real chances. I'd love to see it. I like them both so much. But we have too many other competitors in that category, including one that was at this festival too. So
Well, unless they all fail and we end up having to root for Jennifer Lawrence in Passengers. So
it's okay. Twitter will be super happy about that.
oh, true. You'll love the retweets.
Indeed. And just to cover our bases here, we're probably not looking at Kristen Stewart in Personal Shopper, right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I mean, stranger things have happened, but
Yes.
no.
Well, she's a person that has other films this year, including one that's going to be a much more high profile Oscar baity movie. So
True. And I think for Personal Shopper, she would have to go through Critics Awards, and I don't think they would reward her again this year after going for her last year. So
yeah, I mean everybody went all in for her last year, and that couldn't get her.
yeah.
So yeah, but that's I don't think that's a really big concern for her anyway. So
Oh yeah, no. She's fine. She's doing just fine.
she'll be doing just fine without it. Exactly. All right, so let's look to your comment about foreign film possibilities, because obviously, being the Cannes Film Festival, we are packed with foreign language films, and also too, we don't have any knowledge at this point of what any country is going to be specifically promoting. So we're just throwing darts here
Sure.
at things. So we had how many films from France? 1, 2, 3 ish, depending on how it all shakes out, because there's
There's a lot of co-productions.
lots of co-productions. So I'm looking at the French films here, and I can't. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong list. I was looking at the UCR. So let's see. We have Slack Bay. We have Staying Vertical, Personal Shopper, From the Land of the Moon, L, unless it's
Yeah,
Germany or
not-
Belgium. I'm not sure any of those are going to end up representing France.
Netherlands, maybe.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, what about Aquarius representing Brazil? Possibly.
Oh, yeah. That's a complicated thing. Because of the political thing.
Yeah.
Because what happens is we are currently in a very complicated position politically.
Yeah.
And that directly affects the Ministry of Culture, which is responsible for selecting the movie we will submit. And the Aquarius team made a very anti-government, the current government, presentation per se, on the red carpet, where they show support for the former president who is going through an impeachment process.
Yes.
And that might have consequences or not.
Yeah.
At the time when they did this protest, the Ministry of Culture had been abolished.
Okay.
We didn't have a Ministry of Culture anymore by the current president. And a lot of artists, because a lot of Brazilian cinema is funded by the Ministry of Culture. Okay. So a lot of artists, not only in cinema, but in music, in literature, a lot of artists were worried about the way things were going. And part of the protest had to do with it. And after Aquarius opened, I'm not saying it had anything to do with it, but after Aquarius opened, the current president decided to recreate the Ministry of Culture. So things are back to what they used to be.
Wow.
And we assume that the selection process will be back to what it used to be, where the Ministry of Culture selects a group of people who work in the movies, movie critics as well, and they, along with a representative of the Ministry of Culture, select the movie among a list of movies that have been submitted. So, I mean, it is a choice made by a committee, and as we saw with the jury this year, you can never know what's going to happen when a choice is made by a committee, because it's a very small amount of people.
Yes.
And the thing is, we have a very good alternative, which I personally hate, but it would be maybe a safer choice if they don't want to go into politics, in which they could choose a neon bull.
Ah, okay.
So I think it will be one of those two, but the fact that there is the political aspect and the fact that Aquarius has not opened in Brazil yet and does not currently have an opening date.
Okay. They
want to open it this year, but it doesn't have an opening date, so we don't know if it's going to open before the time, the selection time. So, I mean, it would be a great choice going by the reveals, but I'm not counting on it.
Okay. Okay. Looking at the list, I actually think we might have some very valid contenders. I think Germany could pick Toni Erdmann. It's going to be released this summer, so that falls under the guidelines for Oscar consideration. Let's see. The Unknown Girl for Belgium could end
Maybe.
up. I'm looking at The Salesman. It has a November release date in France, and that's all that's showing up. So
But it has spoken in Iran.
Has it?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm not sure. But I think that's very possible.
But it doesn't have to open officially.
Okay.
The thing with foreign film releases is it doesn't really have to officially, in the sense that it has to for a week and be advertised and blah 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 blah. It's such as the usual rules. Mm-hmm. I think they only have to have one showing at night in one city on the country.
Oh my goodness.
So it's relatively easy to qualify.
Well, that's easy then.
Oh yeah, I mean that's an info from our expert at the
Yes.
forums
True.
on foreign films, which is closest.
Yes. There's
And
also.
The Handmaiden opened in South Korea in June. So.
I was just looking at that, and it feels like such an unlikely submission. Certainly an unlikely nominee.
Oh yeah, crazier things have happened.
Yes.
What I really want to know is how it's going to be the battle for the Romanian submission.
Yeah. I'm looking at that too, because you have the two most popular, most well-known directors.
And they hate each other.
Yes. Wouldn't that have been a great director tie?
Oh, such a lost opportunity.
I really think they should have just said "fuck it" and done that. That would have been amazing.
Actually, Manju, whatever, when he won and they announced it was a tie, he had this face like, oh, and I think he was kind of afraid
Yep.
because you could see the blood leaving his face, He's like, uh-oh.
It was quite a lovely reaction shot. That's for sure.
There
But
were a lot of great reaction shots on that ceremony, by the way.
yeah, there really, really were. And oh my God, the Mads Mikkelsen's
Oh,
face while Dolan
my
was speaking.
favorite gif ever.
I was dying. All I could think of was, I think he wants to eat him. It was straight up Hannibal face. It was great. It was awesome.
It's if Primo's reactions to the girl who won the director door, the camera door.
Yes.
His face was amazing.
Yeah, that was really awesome. That ended up being so much fun. But yeah, to get back to that, I think you're right about Romania. I think we're looking probably at Graduation or Sierra Nevada as very strong possibilities. Julieta from Almodovar should always be something that's considered as Spain's.
Yep, Spain doesn't go with Almodovar that often.
They don't. They don't. Oscar goes with them more than Spain does. So, but he's still always in the running just from who he is in terms of predictions for sure.
Absolutely.
But I'm wondering if the Marosa win will be, big for Philippines as a possible decision.
Maybe.
I don't know, but that country's also going through quite a bit of governmental
Yeah, the movie itself
turmoil.
was very well received.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's complicated.
But I don't know. I'm not seeing much else that we can go from. But there is a good handful of things that in the coming months that will become much clearer.
Oh yeah, and we know Canada is probably not submitting DOLA
No.
with those reveals.
Nope. They will not. Which I don't think anyone's going to have too much of a problem with.
Well, you'd be surprised.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm sure Dolan has a problem with it.
Oh, okay, well, yes. I'm sure he is. I'm sure he might, yeah. But if he... Yes.
Let's leave it at that.
Speaking of, though, I'm really curious to see what the response is going to be for his next film.
Oh yeah, The Life and Death of John F. something.
Donovan.
Yeah, this.
Yeah, which is going to be his first English language film.
With a huge cast.
With a very huge cast, including Jessica Chastain. I think critics might have wanted to save their scrutiny for this instead of for It's Only the End of the World, because I think this
Chastain's coming.
Yeah,
Chastain's coming.
as his first English language film and as the film with the biggest non-French cast and stars, it's going to get a lot more attention, more than almost anything that he's made so far. for better or for worse. So that's I'm very anxious to see that. Although
Yeah, I'm curious.
maybe the bad reviews of this film will only make the good ones of Donovan look even better.
Maybe.
Boy, we've spent a lot of time talking about Xavier Dolan.
I'm sure
If it wasn't
our
all shady,
listeners
he'd be
won't
so
mind.
happy to hear it. But
I mean, we should probably dedicate this podcast to David. He was missed. I'm sure our listeners wish he were here. I tried to shade people as better as I could, but I couldn't live up to David.
no, that yes, I'll have to have some private conversations with him and about that because yes, as one of the reigning Dolan stands of Awards Watch, his insight and opinion on this is quite something.
Yeah, it is.
Well, all right. I think that puts it at just a little over an hour, which should be enough, for some canned talk. Do you think?
I agree.
Do you think we're good?
Oh yeah, I think so.
I think so too.
We've covered a lot.
I think so too. Well, Julia, thank you so much for joining me this morning, and I look forward to.
Thanks for having me.
I look forward to future podcasts with you because you have amazing availability.
I feel as if that was lightly shady,
It was.
but I'll let it go.
It was barely. It was the tiniest amount of shade, just like a sliver.
Just a little.
A sliver.
A healthy amount of shade.
A healthy amount of shade, exactly. So thank you everybody for listening, and don't forget to visit awardswatch.com for news and predictions, especially our Oscar predictions. And follow us on Twitter at awards_watch. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. And we'll have more Oscar-specific podcasts coming up in the next couple of weeks. And I think that's about it for now. All right. Thank you again, Julia.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.